Good afternoon, everyone joining us on our social media channels, Fox News Digital, all over on X, on TikTok, Instagram, you name it. Thank you for being here as we follow Operation Epic Fury, now more than 100 hours into this operation from the United States and the Israeli forces that are attacking and really decimating Iranian forces even at this hour. We're going to start off with just giving you guys latest breaking news as we get it. It is changing every second. We'll start off with what we're now hearing from the State Department. There are plenty of people here who know somebody or know someone who knows someone who might be stuck in the Gulf region, in those Arab nations neighboring Iran. The State Department wants us to make sure that Americans in the Middle East contact their consular services by contacting them and letting them know where you are so that they can potentially help you get out of there, either by charter flight, commercial flight, or even on a C-7 military aircraft. They are trying to evacuate Americans from those neighboring countries, UAE, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, in Oman, in those areas. So right now, they're asking that Americans call 1-202-501-4444 so that they can help you get out of that area. Again, that's 1-202-501-4444. The State Department says that 17,500 Americans have been safely brought back to the United States. Not all of those have been put on planes by the State Department. 8,500 Americans have returned to the United States from the Gulf region yesterday alone. So obviously, as Iran continues their retaliatory attacks against civilian targets in the Gulf region, particularly in the UAE, Dubai, that area, they are trying the best they can to get Americans out of there. And they're not obviously disclosing much more information from a security standpoint. But again, they want to get Americans out of there. The latest news that we are now getting as well from the operations being by the United States was really this morning in that press conference by the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, and General Dan Kane, the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And he said ultimately that they both said that this operation is both decisive and devastating, that these attacks will continue for however long they deem fit, and that they believe that this is going to happen at their pace. This will happen. They said that the United States has total air superiority over Iran. The Iranian Navy has effectively been decimated. More than 20 Iranian ships have been sunk, including, for the first time ever since World War II, an Iranian ship taken down by a torpedo from a United States submarine. Again, the first time that has happened since World War II. They reiterated the three major tasks here from the United States military's perspective. They now have Iranian air superiority, which means over the first 100 hours they were attacking Iran from the south and going into the south. Now they're going to be pushing further in to the north. They are now also able to use more precision guided missiles in their attacks, which again just goes to show you that they are not in fear of Iranian missile defense, because those missile defenses have been taken out, and they do not have anything to fear when it comes to Iranian fighter jets, because those jets have also been decimated. They want to target and eliminate Iran's ballistic missiles. They want to destroy the Iranian Navy, and they want to ensure that Iran does not have any capability whatsoever to rebuild any of its military infrastructure. Those missiles, those drones that they've been using, as well as any kind of nuclear capability. That is why the United States is doing this. And again, in terms of when this operation is going to be over, the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, made very clear that he believes this could be 3 weeks, this could be 5 weeks, this could be 8 weeks. He basically said they will decide when this operation is over, when it is a total victory from their perspective. The Israelis are also taking part in these strikes. They are helping more on the regime change side of things. Again, while they haven't specifically stated that the whole reason for this is regime change, they are creating the conditions for regime change to happen if the Iranians and the Iranian people decide that that is what they want to do. And so the Israelis and the IDF are really targeting the regime to create the conditions so that a regime change could happen if that is in fact what the Iranians on the ground choose to do. And they've targeted specific command center compounds. The IDF saying that they struck dozens of command centers of the Iranian terror regime, internal security, and the besieged command centers throughout. And in fact, one of the command centers that they hit just a short while ago was in eastern Tehran, and it housed command centers for the Revolutionary Guard, the intelligence headquarters, the besieged, the Quds forces, the internal security forces, cyber warfare headquarters. They again are decimating all of the infrastructure that the Islamic Republic and the regime that's been in power for the last 49 years has been relying on to oppress their people, to murder more than 30,000 of their people, according to the White House, as many as more than 30,000 of their people during protests over the last month or so. So the U.S. is decimating much of the ballistic missile and drone capability and going after that, and they are accelerating that. They're bringing in more fighter jets and more assets. Israel is really targeting the infrastructure that has allowed this regime to stay in power in the hopes that the Iranian people will rise up and put in somebody new in power. In terms of what we're now seeing from Iran itself, the Iranian president recently just posted on X within the last hour or two that Iran respects the sovereignty of their Gulf nations and that the United States has forced them to fire more than 500 ballistic missiles and more than 2,000 drones into their neighboring Gulf territories, essentially blaming the U.S. for what has been very clearly targeted attacks against civilian infrastructure, hotels, airports, apartment buildings throughout the Gulf region. In fact, the United Arab Emirates has received more one-way attack drones or suicide drone attacks and ballistic missile attacks than Israel. About 800 ballistic missile and drone attacks have been fired from Iran into UAE, and Israel, for instance, has received multiple salvos of ballistic missile attacks and more than 100 drone attacks, but UAE has received more. So see, it sounds like the Iranian leadership right now is trying to have it both ways, telling their Gulf partners like Kuwait and Qatar and Saudi Arabia and Bahrain and Oman that they are strictly trying to go after U.S. assets in their region, that this is the United States' fault. But clearly, our own eyes and video have shown that they have targeted civilian infrastructure and are continuing to do so. In fact, for the first time today, ever, today, a ballistic missile was fired towards Turkey, and NATO defense systems took that missile out. It did not harm anyone. There's no casualties, but there is now a warning from Turkey, a NATO ally, that this needs to de-escalate or things could get worse. In terms of where we're at also, in terms of the leadership in Iran, that has been a big question here. There was an interview today on another network in which they made clear from Iran's perspective that there is not a new Ayatollah in place. There was discussion that perhaps the new Ayatollah that has been chosen to replace Ali Khamenei would be his 56-year-old son. That is not confirmed yet. The Iranians themselves say that they are in the process of choosing their leader. But if it were to be Khamenei, that is the 56-year-old son of the late Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. And the funeral for the Ayatollah Khamenei has been postponed. It was supposed to happen later today. That's been postponed. There are 3 days of mourning happening in that country. And the reason why it's tough to get information, by the way, out of Iran is because Iranians right now are living in fear. There is a near 100% blackout, according to an independent watchdog, of the internet in Iran now for over 100 hours since this operation started. Less than 1% connectivity of the internet in Iran. And we do know, though, from reports on the ground that there are besieged paramilitary forces that are going around and essentially threatening Iranians not to go out and participate in anything that they deem as being pro-American. In fact, I'll read you a quote from one of their judiciary chief today, who said, quote, "Those who say or do anything in support of U.S.-Israeli airstrikes," he threatened them. He said that they could be met with death. And so that is the reality of what's happening on the ground. An internet blackout. You've got the Iranian regime doing everything they can to try to hold on to power. There is a temporary council of 3 members who are leading essentially what they call the Assembly of Experts to choose their next cleric, their next supreme leader. And again, right now it looks like Khamenei's son, Mojtaba Khamenei, is the favorite, but that has not been chosen yet. In terms of, we're getting some of your questions. How much defense capacity does Iran have left is one of the questions we've received. It's a good question. According to the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, they don't want to get into munitions counts from the United States perspective. In other words, they don't want to talk about how long we think we can be in this based on munitions. But they have made clear that we can be there for as long as this takes, and they're going to decide and dictate the pace. But if you think about the numbers that we were given today by General Dan Kane, they were really striking. And that is that the number of attacks from Iran, ballistic missile attacks, in the last 4 days has decreased by 86%. The number of one-way attack drones used by Iran against the United States and neighboring allies in the Gulf have decreased 73%. So that just gives you an idea that the IDF and the United States are doing what they set out to do, which is primarily to go after ballistic missiles, the drones, not only their storage depots, but also the launchers that are being used to attack the Gulf region and our military bases. So they feel like they have, that in just the 4 days that this war has now been going on, that they have been wholly successful in doing that and are now going to be moving, further north into Iran to look for targets. Ultimately, in terms of the United States, we know that they've hit over 2,000 targets. They've sunk 2,000 naval vessels, in addition to that frigate that was sunk in the Indian Ocean south of Sri Lanka. We know, actually, that there were at least 87 people who were killed, 87 Iranian service members who were killed on that ship at last count in Operation Epic Fury. Interesting, another question that came in, is there any indication that other countries are going to get involved? A great question. France, the big thing that we've been looking at here is our allies, particularly the E3, the United Kingdom, France, and Germany. And there was real concern over the first 48 hours because they didn't necessarily come out at all to join us in offensive, not only in offensive capabilities and operations in Iran, but it became also clear that the United Kingdom was not even willing to give us access to their military bases to launch airstrikes against Iran in Iran. And the Prime Minister here in the United Kingdom, Keir Starmer, is taking a lot of heat from President Trump, who says he's, quote, no Winston Churchill, because of his delay in allowing us to finally use those British military bases some 2 or 3 days after they were asked for, but also him going to Parliament and saying that he believes that the action in Iran is illegal. And I think you have to understand here in the United Kingdom, we are reporting right now from our London bureau, that there is a lot of hesitation because the British people, based on polling, don't really want to get involved in this conflict. But also there's hesitation because of what happened in 2003 and the British people not wanting to get involved in a quagmire and military action as like what we saw in Iraq in 2003. So France and Germany have been more willing to help us. They have also released a statement saying that they would be willing to allow to get involved here in what they call defensive strikes. That is to go after and attack Iranian launchers or ballistic missiles and drones in Iran if deemed necessary to protect allies and British and French and German nationals who live in the region. So basically, our allies, those three main allies, are allowing us to use their military bases in limited defensive capacities, but that's as far as we've come in terms of getting any help. Right now, this is strictly a U.S. and Israeli operation. And mind you, it's an operation that has been working in a historic fashion, as both sides have said. There have been something like 4,000 to 5,000 calls, according to the IDF, in between both the Israelis and the United States as they coordinate this very complex operation in the Gulf with thousands of targets that they are hitting on air and in the sea. So we are still monitoring updates. We encourage everybody to continue to follow us. Watch our coverage. We've got Trey Yinks in Jerusalem. We've got reporters throughout the region. I'll be here in London for now, reporting on the latest as well. And now we are just trying to see if there's any other, just trying to make sure I get the latest information here. Before I also want to emphasize here that Israel's not only attacking Iran, but we know from the reporting from Trey Yinks on the ground all day today on our air that Hezbollah in Lebanon and Iran are coordinating attacks into Israel. And for the first time today, they simultaneously launched missiles into Israel. So Hezbollah has been involved in this, has gotten themselves involved. Of course, they are the largest Iranian proxy in the region. They are involved in this, and now you have the IDF bombing areas in southern Lebanon, in Beirut, to neutralize the threat from Hezbollah. And now you also have the IDF helping us in Iran in what, again, is a war that that the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, says is only just beginning. And so we are going to continue to follow updates here. I'll stay here for just a few more moments, see if we get any more information coming in or any more questions. I do want to take a moment here, I think, though, to talk about those who have been lost in combat. And those are the 6 service members who heroically have been killed in operations in Kuwait. We are told that they're on their way home. I don't have information as to when they will be here. But in terms of who they are, I just want to make sure that we give them credit and honor them for their sacrifice. We know that the four of the six U.S. service members who were killed in Kuwait from a drone strike include Captain Cody Chorus, 35 years old, Sergeant First Class Nicole Amor, who's 39 years old, Sergeant First Class Noah Tietjens, 42 years old, and Sergeant Declan Cody, 20 years old. Those were the 4 that were killed. They were part of the 103rd Sustainment Command out of Des Moines, Iowa. And so we thank them, and may they rest in peace, and we thank them for their service, and their families are in our thoughts and prayers. Again, the president has said, President Trump has reiterated that they expect more casualties on the American side as these airstrikes continue. And I think that's what we have so far today. I think we encourage everyone here to continue to watch the Fox News channel. Watch us any way you can, on digital, on the social media platforms, on the channel. Follow our reporters, Jennifer Griffin, Trey Yinks, Lucas Tomlinson, Nate Foy, Jonathan Hunt, myself, and the rest of us throughout the network as we follow Operation Epic Fury and bring you the very latest. Thank you so much for joining us here. I'm Bryan Llenas, live from our London bureau. Stay tuned to Fox's coverage throughout. Thank you, guys.